Guys, welcome back for section 1.2. Today we're going to talk about why every decision involves trade-offs. We'll talk about the concept of opportunity cost, and then we'll talk about how people make decisions by thinking on the margin. Again, I'm using some vocab that you maybe are not familiar with yet. Please take a look over that vocab that's available to you in your note packet. We'll look at a couple of the vocab words on the next couple slides here. So first I use the term trade-off. A trade-off is the alternative that we give up when we choose another course of action. I like to think about trade-offs in terms of my time, right? So if I decide that after school I am going to go hang out with some friends, potentially the trade-off is everything else I could be using that time for, right? So maybe I could use that time to take a nap or to go to work and make some more money, right? Those sorts of things. So thinking about the alternatives that we give up. Now, there are going to be some alternatives that are more desirable to you than others, right? I may value a nap more than I value doing a couple more hours of work in the evening, right? So your opportunity cost is your most desirable alternative that you gave up as a result of the decision that you had made. I also talked about thinking on the margin. This is the process of deciding how much more or how much less to do. So maybe I say I am going to go hang out with my friends, but I can only go hang out with them for like 2 hours as opposed to like 3 or 4. Because if I'm going to hang out with them for that long, I'm going to be giving up more and more, right? In that case, I'm giving up my time that I could be devoting to other tasks. So your marginal cost then is the extra cost of adding one more unit. That unit can be money, that unit can be time, right? So if I give up 1 more hour to be with my friends, what is the cost of giving up that time, right? So if I'm giving up that time and I could have been working and making more money, that can literally be a cost, right? So maybe hanging out with them lost me 15 bucks an hour, right? Or it could just be other costs, right? Maybe I get less time with my family, less time to catch up on rest, so on and so forth. Likewise, the marginal benefit is the extra benefit of spending that extra hour with your friends, right? So there's obviously a lot of social benefits involved in hanging out with your friends. May leave you feeling refreshed, ready for the next day, those sorts of things. All right, so how does opportunity cost affect decision making? Every time that we choose to do something, like sleep an extra hour or hang out with our friends, we are giving up the opportunity to do something else. So we must decide how we're going to spend our time and our money, right? And ultimately, those decisions that we make as individuals are going to have an effect on the economy, right? Because maybe the choice I'm making means that I'm not going to work, or it means that I'm going out to a restaurant, so I'm spending my time and my money there, right? And that money fuels that business and therefore fuels the economy. So for trade-offs, all individuals, businesses, large groups of people have to make decisions that involve trade-offs. Trade-offs are things that can be easily measured, such as money, property, time, or they can also include things that cannot be easily measured. So things like enjoyment or job satisfaction. Right? Those are also things that we consider when making decisions about how we spend our time and our money. Some examples here. So a business makes trade-offs when they decide how to use their factors of production. right? If a business has a really successful product that they have a lot of demand for at the moment, they may use their labor force to make more of that product, but it's at the expense of another product that they make, right? So maybe at Lysol right now, Lysol makes all kinds of cleaning products, right? But they may be diverting some of their labor force so that more people are working on disinfecting wipes versus like a toilet cleaner, right? Because the disinfecting wipes are in much higher demand at the moment. So business is going to make those trade-offs. Additionally, a farmer who decides to use their land for wheat cannot use their land for corn, right? So how they allocate that resource, they're making a choice right there. In your vocab terms, you have guns or butter, which is like how the government allocates its money between military versus domestic needs. That is a trade-off as well. Now, in most trade-offs, one of the rejected alternatives is more desirable than the rest. The most desirable alternative that somebody gives up as a result of that decision is called their opportunity cost. So there's this term. There's no such thing as a free lunch. Okay, people talk about it like in regards to government spending, right? So we have free and reduced lunch programs that the government helps subsidize for families who maybe can't afford it, so that students can have a meal in school, right? Now, the idea of there's no such thing as a free lunch means that somebody is paying for that, right? Because the government is paying for it, someone else is paying for it. Your tax dollars fund those things, right? So everything comes with a cost. That cost may not always be obvious to us, but it exists, right? If I am going to go hang out with my friends, I may not think of any other opportunity cost involved, any other trade-off, right? I may not really think about it because the most important thing to me at the moment is to hang out with my friends. But there are trade-offs, right? There is an opportunity cost for everything, but sometimes we need to think a little bit more about what that cost may be and the effects that it can have on an economic system. So why does every choice involve an opportunity cost? There are so many things you could be doing, right? We always face an opportunity cost. When we make a decision, we must sacrifice another option. Like I said, some of those options may not be desirable to you, but they exist. You can use what's called a decision-making grid to help assess your opportunity costs and the choices that you're going to make. Now, no one's going to make a chart about whether or not they should sleep late on a Saturday, right? Like, who does that? That'd be kind of weird. But how often do you find yourself thinking, what are the pros and cons of that decision, right? For some of you, it may be thinking about where you want to go to college next fall. For some of you, it may be deciding whether or not you're going to pick up a shift on Saturday at work. So we go through those pros and cons in our heads pretty naturally, right? Very similar to a decision-making grid where you're assessing the pros and the cons of the different alternatives available to you. When you decide how much more or how much less to do, you're thinking on the margin. So how many hours am I going to work this week? Okay. Deciding by thinking on the margin involves comparing the opportunity costs to the benefits. So this decision-making process is called a cost-benefit analysis. right? Is the cost to me worth the extra benefit, right? If I decide to hang out with my friends instead of picking up a shift at work, but then I can't pay my phone bill next week, was the cost worth the benefit? That's cost benefit analysis. To make good decisions on the margin, you must weigh the marginal costs against the marginal benefits. So like I mentioned with the vocab, marginal cost is the cost of adding one more unit. Marginal benefit is the extra benefit of doing the same, right? So in this example, you lost $300 and you decide to go looking for it. You find $200 pretty much right away, right? Within the first hour, you find most of your money. Now you need to decide whether or not you're going to keep looking for the other 100. I don't know about you, but 100 bucks is still a lot to me. So I decide I'm going to keep looking. It's worth my time, right? In the next hour, I find $99. So I'm missing $1 from where I started, right? 2 hours in. Thinking on the margin is when I decide that that $1 is not worth my time and effort. Okay, that's thinking on the margin. Once the marginal cost outweighs the marginal benefit, no more units can be added, right? I'm not going to spend any more time looking for that $1. So I want you to take a look at this decision-making grid. This is evaluating the cost of an extra hour of sleep, right? So take a look at the chart and try to determine the cost of sleeping one more hour and the benefit of sleeping one more hour. Keeping in mind that not all of the answers may be in this chart, but this chart is here to help you. A couple additional examples about thinking on the margin to wrap up this section. Employers think on the margin when they decide how many workers they should hire, right? Eventually, you can have too many people working a shift, right? Have you ever been at work and there's like 5 of you on, but it's super slow and you probably only need 1 or 2 of you working? That happens, right? So that is of great cost to the employer. We also can become less effective when there's not enough work to go around, right? If you've ever been in a small group for a project and maybe there's only really enough work for 2 of you, but there's 5 of you in the group, there's 3 of you that are maybe doing nothing to help your group, right? Because there's just not enough work to go around. So employers have to think about what that should look like. Legislators think on the margin when they decide how much to increase government spending on a particular project, because that money has to come from somewhere else, right? So there are trade-offs. There's an opportunity cost involved in that. All right, that's 1.2.